And depression comes from suppression of expression. And if you're not able to fully express yourself to your fullest potential, you are going to feel that depression start to sink in. And depression really boils down to they, meaning your outside observable universe, don't understand me. And if you can break the bonds of the separation between.
Hi, I'm Robert. Here we are with the Side Hustle podcast, where we bring on side hustlers who are building empires, going on their entrepreneurial journey, launching, successing, selling their business, exiting for multiple 7 and 8 figures. And today we have Alia on, who I met through the book publishing opportunity with Brian Tracy. And we're going to let you introduce yourself a little bit, Alia, and where you're at. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but apparently it's pretty nice weather there.
Yes, Alia here. I am in Phoenix, Arizona. It is probably like 90, not quite 100 right now. So September is not so bad. It's a little bit 90s to 100. Um, I am the founder of Sublime Knowledge, a mindset coaching company out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I founded this company about 2 years ago and got obsessed with mindset and obsessed with the subconscious mind and how it works. And I can't stop talking about it. So it's been my passion since.
Yeah, and I got a little bit of insight because Aaliyah just actually recorded me on her podcast. So now it's my turn to grill her and how she got to where she's at. And so in Phoenix, you're known as the mindset coach. And what about outside of Phoenix? Do you have aspirations to grow across the US, across Canada? Do you have clients now that are outside the country?
Sure, I have clients all over the world, so
Wow.
that's kind of exciting. Yeah, because these days you've got Zoom, so you can reach anybody anywhere. It's just a matter of understanding what their goals are and just helping them understand how to rewire themselves to get to that goal.
And how do you, for example, for us, I always get jealous when I hear somebody say, "Yeah, I have clients all over the world." Whereas our company, we're restricted by the Canadian border, right? We
Right.
have financial services and we're not licensed in the US or in other countries. So I always think I want to start a food channel so I can reach the world, with something I like doing rather than a business that we're restricted on. But what is the ultimate goal? So we'll talk about your business now. We'll get the domain URL, how people can work with you, but then we'll backtrack a little bit how you got into this and
Sure.
why you believe it's so powerful. So what about now? What's the website? What's the best way for somebody to reach out to you? And we'll make sure and get that in the comments and links. So let's kick off with that.
Sure. www.sublimeknowledge.com is the website. And we do personal and professional coaching. So it doesn't matter if you're looking to start up your own business or maybe advance in your career, or if you are looking for health and emotional coaching, or maybe you need financial wisdom coaching, just understanding how to structure different layers of passive income so that you can relax and have some time freedom in your life and enjoy your family. We help individuals understanding those paths as well and just wrapping their mind around how to build that mindset to get into the industry that's going to generate that level of passive income into their life and give them some freedom back.
And when somebody comes in to work with you, what is the process? Do you go through an intake consultation? So let's start with that. And then where does somebody go on the first step on their journey working with you and your team?
Sure. So the first thing is have a goal. So come in and say, you know what? This is the thing I've been trying to work towards, and I have not maybe gotten progress, or you've been struggling a little bit with it. The first thing is understanding what the goal is. And when I listen to that, the second part is understanding how the individual thinks about their goal, because that the thought process is what's generating everything. How they think, how they feel, what their beliefs are. Is it in alignment with their goal?
And helping define the goal because a lot of people don't understand what a goal is.
Absolutely. That's the other thing. We all have misconceptions on what we think should be our goals. Sometimes it's projected onto us by, a family member, parents, or whatever the case might be. Or sometimes we see somebody else do something, but we don't see the back work. It's like there's tons of back work that leads to the result that you see in the person. Like the person driving the Ferrari didn't just wake up and is all of a sudden driving the Ferrari. There was a ton of
Unless you got
work.
it from your parents.
unless you got it from your parents. But if you want to create it for yourself, you got to shift your mindset. So, starting to understand what those triggers are, what persistence looks like, what using your willpower looks like, and bringing that into reality, it requires some mindset. And years ago, I wish that I understood mindset and learned it at a much younger age. Now, I learned it somewhat along the way, but if I had learned this information when I was younger, like I think it would have been a complete game changer in my life. And when I understood that this knowledge was out there and you really have to seek it out and you need to get to the right teachers to teach you. People like Brian Tracy are phenomenal, Tony Robbins, phenomenal teachers that are out there. Myron Golden's been my recent obsession because he breaks things down. The other day I'm listening to a video of his and he says, what does he say? He said, the soil doesn't care about your needs. The soil cares about the seed. So whatever the seed is that you're getting ready to plant, like you better know what that seed is, because if you're not planting the seeds, you can't reap the harvest. Like, and I mean, it's insane how powerful this mindset stuff really is, and understanding like planting the right seeds in your thought process and in your actions, because it's not just good enough to think about it all day long. You got to put it to action too. So starting to grasp the concept of taking thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, and then doing the actions, creating the attitude that's going to get you to the end result. It takes training. It takes some learning.
I remember reading about SMART goals, the acronym
Yes.
SMART, and how much truth is there in the SMART acronym when you're setting your goals?
There's a lot of truth to it. You definitely want to identify what it is that you're doing, and you want to make sure that it's real and it's tangible and you can take action to it. I have a different system that I use when I'm rewiring someone, and I don't have an acronym for it, but I can tell you like it's very sensory oriented. So it's sight, it's bringing your visual attention to it, it's speech, it's speaking about it in a positive format, it's listening to things that will move you closer to that goal, and it's actually writing down your goals all night, or writing down affirmations at night, not all night, but maybe somebody will do it all night, but writing it down at night before you go to bed, and writing it down in the morning when you wake up in the morning. And if you can train yourself in a sensory experience, statistically you are definitely going to get to that goal if you can immerse yourself in it. Statistically, the immersion leads to the result.
I heard, I don't know who it was talking about writing down your, not just your goals, but your tasks for the following day before you go to bed, because then they're subconscious in your mind.
Goes to work
So
for
I
you.
really like that. That helped me remember that task.
Yeah, you have this tool, and this tool resides in the mind. Like, okay, so I'll walk you through some of the tools that we use. So our toolkit in the physical world, how we ever learned anything to begin with, was sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. And our toolkit in our mind is perception, reasoning, imagination, will, memory, and intuition. Now we've got these tools in the mind. They're mental tools that you can use, you can adjust, you can manipulate. You just have to use your intellect to do that. So intellectually, you can say, okay, does the perception that I have about life or towards others, would that lead me to a desired outcome? What about the way that I view memories? Are memories from the past triggering me to keep me from working towards something that I might fail at doing, or I'm afraid of failing at doing? So if I can understand that maybe a past memory is what's triggering it, then I have to immerse myself in imagination, because memory and imagination, they work similarly, except one holds you back and the other one moves you forward. So it's being able to bridge the gap in between our tools in our minds.
Wow. So I'm gonna make sure and get maybe a synopsis of that in underneath your bio. Maybe the six senses and the other checklists that you have. And then if people want to reach out, we have the website. We'll have that in the link below. But how about before you got into this mindset industry, or jumping neck deep into the mindset, what were you doing before this, and where was the transition into this mindset journey?
Sure. So I held a corporate job for like 20 years and I was in business management. And being in business management does require you to develop good coaching skills because you hired people, you developed their talents, and no two people are the same and they're motivated differently. And when you start to understand how to motivate, and this was in a sales environment, when you understood how to motivate people to want to sell and teach them the techniques that they need to, I started to learn for myself how I can utilize visualization skills to help them be successful and giving that knowledge to them. So some of this stuff I kind of already knew. But back in 2018, I think the biggest challenge in my life that could ever set in 2018 because the doctors pulled me aside and they told me that my mom only had 6 months left to live. And I was trading time for money. So I was in this corporate job and that's how I paid my bills. Now, at this moment, 6 months left, she only wants me to be there for her. She doesn't want anybody else to be there for her. And now I have to figure out how am I going to move forward? What am I going to do? And I think it was at that critical moment in time I started to reshape how I looked at everything in life. And in those moments when the darkness really kind of kicks in, you can either ask a mentally disabling question or you can ask a mentally enabling question. And at that moment, I was grateful that I had the smarts enough to ask a mentally enabling question because it made me access this information so much faster. And that mentally enabling question was, what do I need to learn to get through this? And believe it or not, all of a sudden, like I think we know about intelligence, which is like acquired information that we get from the physical world, but we also have a higher level of awareness, which we can download information that's intrinsic just to us. So once you are able to activate that, and I think that asking the right questions, which is why, Brian Tracy, I think he's the one that mentioned about writing down your tasks or writing down your goals at night and then going to bed with it. Because when you can put it down onto paper and you then go into rest or to sleep, what it does is that it actually ignites your thinking process while you're resting. And it goes to solve the problem that you're seeking to solve. And it presents itself the next day. It works like magic. It really does. But there is a system to it. And our brains have a desire to identify things, it has a desire to find what it is that we're looking for. Unfortunately, more people ask mentally disabling questions about life. And again, the brain goes to work to solve the mentally disabling problem. And that leads to an undesirable outcome for them, as opposed to training yourself. And it does require some training because I've had to train myself. There is no overnight success in doing this. There is gradual implemental methods of thinking that you're going to rewire yourself to. And as you start to rewire yourself to it, you start to see the changes happen. And then all of a sudden you'll wake up in the morning and you're like, today's going to be the greatest day ever. And you'll mean it from your heart because it just feels empowering when you realize that you do have some power, you do have control, and life doesn't have to happen to you. You can be the curator of the outcome. You can be the one that's the catalyst that determines which direction you're going to go in.
So that's great. We learned a little bit about the mechanics, and you have your own process. You don't have an acronym for it yet, but hope you can come up with one. Add some other words in to come up with one. That would be cool. But
Yeah.
how does somebody now, they decide they're listening to the podcast, they understand the power of the mind. Walk us through, signing up for the program. Do you have short programs, long programs? Is there a minimum amount of time somebody needs to practice this before it becomes habitual? Walk us through the process so that our listeners, will have an interest in reaching out.
Sure. So I think like a month of starting to immerse yourself will start to move the mark. That's when you're going to see something really tangible. So we have coaching sessions that are for like one hour a week and for 4 weeks. And to me, that's the great way to kind of get introduced to it. Now, I will give you some information, but I highly recommend people also learning it from different angles because that's the way that we learn effectively. It's not just about hearing just one person talk about it. Sometimes you need to hear it from different people or different books and formulate your own concept of how mindset will apply into your life. And the second thing that I think is key is when you go to do it, try to release the desire to judge, because if you pass the judgment to say this isn't going to work for me, or you if you said that, that's actually a well-crafted intention that basically says I will fail. So try to release the desire to judge, and then as you go into it being open-minded, do the work. It does require you to do the work. It's not going to come easy. It requires you to write every single night. It requires you to speak in a positive manner. It requires you to listen to affirmations or listen to things that are going to develop the skill of the person you're looking to become. And it does require bring your observation to that on a regular basis if you want to immerse yourself fully.
So sublimeknowledge.com. We'll have the links if you're listening on Spotify with no video, it'll be in the below the bio for Alia, her contact, how to get involved. So let's backtrack now. You've got your program, you've developed it. It doesn't happen overnight. I know we developed a program. It was 600 hours of work that went into it before we launched our first course
Yeah.
back about 12 years ago. So I know it's a lot of work. You had 20 years in corporate. What about before corporate? Their university, was there high school, was there sports, was there arts? Like, how did you build up this work ethic to be able to keep going?
Sure. So it's interesting. Like we'll go back to childhood real quick. I had really great parents. Like they were super loving and supportive. But when I was 11, my dad died suddenly. And when he passed away, that spiraled me into depression. And throughout like my high school years, I was in depression. And it sounds kind of crazy, but I met a friend, and my friend was a Scientologist, and they taught me about the analytical mind and the reactive mind. And that was my first taste because I was actually able to go through some of their auditing procedures and tear apart the reactive part of my mind that was damaged from losing my dad so suddenly and just kind of like spiraling into that space. And what was the critical point was like after high school, I had to work. Like I absolutely had to. I had a mom because my dad had died. She was working 12 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, like she was working all the time. We grew up in New York. I grew up in New York City, and it was not easy. And she did as much as she could. So getting out of high school, my first thing was like land a good job, make sure it's a really good job because you're gonna need to make a certain amount of money because you got to support the lifestyle in New York. And for me, my biggest goal was to get out of New York because I wasn't crazy about it. I love New York, it's a great city, but it wasn't for me. I wanted something that was going to be more peaceful and more, in alignment with me. And as I started to understand how our mind was governing our physical reality, I really started deep diving into that stuff way back then. I started studying, I started reading books like The Celestine Prophecy. When The Secret came out, I started studying that. I followed Bob Proctor. I was listening to Michael Bernard Beckwith, all of these like amazing individuals that just where a wealth of knowledge made me realize that depression is a real thing, and depression comes from suppression of expression. And if you're not able to fully express yourself to your fullest potential, you are going to feel that depression start to sink in. And depression really boils down to they, meaning your outside observable universe, don't understand me. And if you can break the bonds of the separation between you and them, and then become one with the environment and become one with the observable universe that you're interacting with, I think it really helps to elevate and grow you significantly faster because you realize your negative thoughts control the particles that you're looking at that are in front of you. So if you have negative thoughts towards another human being, you're in essence activating their negativity at that specific moment in time. And if you can bless their lives and you have positive thoughts towards them, you have trust. Growing up in New York, I didn't trust anybody. I had to learn how to create trust in people. I had to be able to say, okay, most people are good on the planet, and that's just the fact of the matter. We see more good people than we see bad people every day. And you don't invite somebody to be a part of your life because you want to invite bad in. You invite them in because you assume they're good. So but sometimes we have that negative program in which I don't trust you, or I don't trust people, or I don't trust, or whatever that might be. These are all triggers to activate a negative response from another person. So being able to kind of grasp that concept in my mind and rewire it in a manner in which I'm able to do it. So I did it for myself first, obviously. And then back in 2018, as I was going through this challenge, and I realized my mom didn't live for 6 months, she lived for 3 years after that. So I got a ton of time with her. And I really brought myself to a great space with her. And while I was doing it, I was recording every single thing that I was doing. And then I built and I created the Intuitive Ascending Mind program, which is a program that people can buy and start. It's like the introductory. It's $40. It's so cheap. It's the introductory to learning how to build a goal. It's the introductory into understanding how your mental faculties, how consciousness works, how your mental faculties work, and learning what your negative thoughts are. You're putting some context to your negative predominant thoughts, and then understanding how to rewire it. And then there's some really powerful affirmations to the end
Will this
of it.
simple course, this is kind of the step into working with Alia, but will this simple course work with somebody going through depression?
It will start to identify exactly what it is that they are suffering from when it comes to depression. And identifying it is the biggest part because
And do you have a course for afterwards for somebody taking this introductory program with you? And then if they are going through depression?
sure,
So
we have the health and emotional coaching. Yeah, they
I
can go
think
through
that's a great
that.
message for listeners. So hopefully those listening, if you know somebody going through just depression, reach out to Aaliyah and just, talk to her about the program, get started on the right foot and, help somebody out there.
Absolutely. If you need a therapist or a psychologist, I'm not that. Go get the help to unpack some of the baggage from the past. But if you're looking to set your life up for the future, that's where I come in. I will help to work through some of those negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But ultimately, like if you are still dealing with the emotional attachment to it, that's where your therapist and your psychologists come in. But when you're ready to say, you know what, I'm going to rewrite the narrative myself, I want to take back control myself, then mindset coaching, that's the difference between those two areas. Because I feel like those areas have to be defined because most people will say, well, why would I go to her when I can go to a therapist? Yeah, they're going to unpack the past, but for the most part, they won't tell you what to do to move forward.
Mhm.
And I have no problem telling you what to do to move forward.
We do that on the financial side. When people come in to work with us, we do this complimentary tax review for them. We talked about that on your interview. But if they come in and they have a lot of debt problems or, you know, out of control debt, we won't work with somebody until we help them get to what we call ground zero. And I
Yeah.
found the same analogy with what you're doing. You help somebody, they go to the right psychologist or other professional to get to that point, and then they can jump on your program. Is there some overlap? Any benefit to joining your program while they're still seeing a therapist?
Sure. So, I mean, I've had clients that were in therapy for like 20 plus years and they did six
Wow.
months of my program and they like turned around their life instantly. You can see the reviews, like they're out there.
See the reviews. So let's do this. I have two more questions for you, and then we'll let you get the final word in.
Sure.
I always have a question for all our guests, but you're not allowed to use your own book.
Okay.
That's a little prelude to the question. So, any books that you've read or movie that you could recommend to somebody going out on their own, starting a side hustle, somebody who's, let's say, just starting out and they've quit their job and they put all their marbles in one basket. Any book you could recommend or any movie to help somebody get to the next step?
As a Man Thinketh was a very influential book in my life, James Allen. And I think learning how to think is the most important thing. It's the most critical thing. So that would be the book. Do I have a movie? Probably Matrix. I like Matrix a lot because Matrix really just kind of breaks it down in a very sci-fi type manner, but that's exactly what we're doing, what we're experiencing. So yeah, that would be my book and my movie.
Awesome, awesome. And then what's next up for you? What is the next step? Where are you going to? I mean, not when we finish this interview here, podcast, but next business step. Do you have another program you're working on, or the next level program, or a workshop, or a retreat?
Sure, we always have stuff in motion. Right now in October, we're going to be in Miami and there's going to be a women's thriving event, and that is going to be pretty empowering. It's going to be for women, but my ideal clients are both men and women. But helping women to break through some of those emotional, I feel like women tend to be a little bit more emotional to begin with. So helping them to break
Really?
to break some of those bonds emotionally, I think, it helps a great deal.
It's true. I have two daughters, so I can appreciate that. Got a couple boys as well that, but the daughters keep them in line, but they have their own special way. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
Okay, Aaliyah.
people are
So
great at that.
yeah. So thanks so much for being on the Side Hustle podcast. You got a great thing going there with sublimeknowledge.com. Reach out to Alia and she'll get you started on the right foot. Set up a consultation, reach out. There's no harm in asking. If you don't ask, you sleep alone. So that's just my final kick at the can here. Any final words?
I'll make every day your greatest day ever.
Awesome. We'll see everybody next time.
Bye bye.
Funny, my daughter, we moved back when I was with my ex, and she was about 12. She's 21 now, but when she was about 12, moved, and I was setting up the new computer, or the computer. I packed it up and then setting it up in the new place, setting up my office because I couldn't be without the computer for a day with the business and everything working from home.
Uh-huh.
And I was under the desk and I was frustrated because I had back injuries, and I'm like, darn, I said, does it work? I said, try it, turn on. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And then she goes, so then I got up and I was stretching a bit, and she went under the desk. I didn't see her. And she goes, there, try it now, Daddy. So I tried it and the computer worked. I'm like, how did you do that? She said, and she pulled the cords out. I'm like, don't pull them out. She goes, it's so simple, Dad. They're color coded. The blue one goes in the blue slot and the yellow one goes in the yellow slot. But I couldn't see it under the desk. But it's so amazing how simple some things are where we're thinking too much about.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. Dell computers, they're all color coded, all the cables.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not paying attention to what you're doing too. Like it could be something else might have been on your mind at that moment and you just were not focused on it. And as she went to work on it, she's like, I'm gonna figure this out.
Simple. This is so simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was and then there was another guy, we were at one of the new offices way back when, and this young guy, he was a IT student, big guy, big farm kid. He was maybe 6'3", 250, 260 pounds.
Uh-huh.
And I was under the desk. I said, oh, I can't figure this out. Same thing, trying to set up computer cable. That's my nemesis, computer cables. And he goes under the desk. He goes, oh man, I can't fit in there. So he just picks up the desk and he moves it. And then he fixes the computer and he moves the desk back. I said, you know how to solve problems. That was it.
I would arguably say you saying that that's your nemesis creates that to being your
Yeah.
nemesis. So yeah.
But no, I've what does Brian Tracy say? He says, eat the frog. So now, no, I'm pretty good with computers now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, setting 5 seconds of intentions before you do something like just changes the outcome. It's so fast.
You're right, 100%.
Like I remember hating, like I would always get stuck in traffic, and then one day I was like, my roads are free and clear. I am, and I just went out and I was like, and I was stuck in the interesting thing about this, true story, I was stuck in traffic, but traffic was on the two lanes that were on the other side of me, and the lane I was in was just slowly but surely moving consistently forward, and the other two were just kind of stop and go, and I was like, I like this. My roads are free and clear. That's my new affirmation on the roads.
Awesome. Awesome.
So
Okay,
yeah,
so
it really does work.
what time zone are you in? It's 4:30 p.m. here.
Same thing.
Okay, same time zone.
Same time zone. Yes.
And Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
How much degrees? How many? How hot is it?
Let's see right now, because it's 99. I'm telling you, it's like our fall season. It's just perfect.
You don't even have the AC on, do you?
I do.
Okay, okay. That's awesome. So you're going to Miami and then you're not going to San Diego because
Not
you
going
already went, but I forgot to bring up your book, your publication with Brian. So what was your chapter about and what publication were you in?
Yeah, I was in Succeeding in Business in Any Market, this one.
Awesome.
And my chapter was again just breaking down the mind so people can kind of grasp the idea about what their tools are in their mind so that they can They can start to create things they want, or they can know what area they need to work on. So, like, if you become conscious that you're constantly running memories of the past, then you know you can't move ahead. Like you're
True,
replaying the
true.
past. You're not going to move anywhere. So every thought has a frequency. So if you can rewire that to imagination for the life you want to experience, and let's just say 80% of the old you was stuck in memory, then you were only creating past situations and like creating that type of loop in which, somebody hurt you, somebody else comes along and they're hurting you, and another person comes along and they hurt you, and then that's the loop that you're caught up in. But when you start to use imagination and you're like, okay, I'm the one that's going to take control of my life and everybody in my life is going to support me, then you're starting to move in the direction of feeling supported, feeling empowered, and feeling like, even if somebody doesn't support you, you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm no longer in alignment with that person. That's fine. And there's just a more mature approach to understanding life and understanding what it means to be in
Mhm.
alignment with something, and accepting when separation happens, because even if we go through those challenges of breakup and stuff like that, we need to be able to accept it. Those are the things that trap us. And being able to get over that process and being open to creating the future for yourself in a more loving, more nurturing relationship. You said, okay, not all women are like that, or not all men are like that. Whatever it is, as you start to shape that and you start to change that, then your life unfolds in the manner that you want it to.
Wow. I feel like I've just been through a session.
There you go.
But that, that's what I love about getting on these podcasts is, you learn something from everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody has their expertise. Like there's mindset, there's, health coaches, physical coaches, um, there's practitioners, there's technical people like in the financial side that can dissect your entire financial plan. So I think it's about finding the right people as well and surrounding yourself with the right people and taking the right courses. There have been many courses I've gone to, like workshops, weekend getaways, and I said to myself, you know what, I got one or two things out of there, but that was, all I got. You try and get something out of every one of these courses you go to or trips you pay for.
Hmm.
Yeah, what I'm trying to get out of the mentorship or the our chapter with Brian, I didn't talk so much about the mechanics of our business. I just talked about my story.
Hmm.
But when we go down there to San Diego, I talked to MedHat about getting 100 hard copies if the book's ready,
Uh-huh.
because I want to get all the authors in this publication to sign their chapter. So 100 copies, they'll all sign it,
Oh,
get Brian
nice.
to sign it, but then we're going to auction them off on the website
That's great.
for a charity. So we'll get
That's
100 books signed. We may say $100 minimum, and each book that sells, the next one goes up, it's $110. So buy your
yeah.
copies now before the next person buys it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll do
That's
something fun like that to try and get some engagement.
yeah.
But your book, do you have a link on your site for your book?
Yeah, so the ebook is available on the site. Hard copies, I printed a bunch of those and I just utilize them when I do, like,
Okay.
in-person events.
So we'll
Uh,
share the ebook link on the podcast notes.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send that to you. And
Awesome.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's been a great decision for me to do this. Um, First of all, I admired Brian so much before I even got started on this project with him. But at that point, I remember like thinking, I really want to collectively pull all of the stuff that's going on up here and make it available to somebody else to understand. And I am in the process of writing like a much more detailed book that's really going to dive
I
into.
think your course though will allow you to do that on a higher level.
Yeah, it
But
does.
the book brings people into your program or gets the right people in.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, the book
afraid
definitely helps.
my wife encouraged me to go with this. There's a couple other opportunities similar,
Mhm.
right? And it's resources and money, etc. But Michael Gerber has the same opportunity in the E-Myth, so they can co-author with Michael Gerber. Grant Cardone has similar opportunity.
Yeah,
But my wife said, Brian Tracy reaches the demographic that we're trying to reach,
yeah,
because most of our high net worth clients are, 250,000 income and up. Like we got
Mhm.
one woman works with us, she's worth 150 million.
Wow. That's amazing.
When I tell that story, all my friends say, "Is she single?" I'm like, yeah, she's younger than me and she's single, but she's got pretty high standards.
That's amazing how she's built that. Yeah,
But
that
my wife said, you know, who do we want to attract? Do you want to attract all the baby boomers that are, you know, hardcore sales guys that are working with Grant Cardone, or all the elitists that are working with who's Anthony Robbins? She
yeah.
said Brian Tracy is the demographic. They're business owners. They're the type of
Mhm.
clients we want. So I'm afraid to bring her down because she loves them so much. I'm not going to be able to get a word in edgewise with them if she's there.
Oh, you definitely have to take her.
Yeah, no, she's coming. We went also with the what is it? The marketing package, the extra day ahead to go in
Yes,
and
to
get
record.
interview them, record them, and I made sure to ask before we signed up. We work with, who was it, David
Uh-huh.
Niels?
Niels,
You know,
uh-huh.
yeah. So talked to him. I said, if we go through with this thing, I said, you're either gonna have to allow my wife in to talk to him and just say hi and get a picture with him,
Uh-huh.
uh, or you're gonna have to let her in. Because she won't take no for an answer. He goes, yeah, don't worry, we'll arrange something. She can get a picture as well. And that was the only stipulation I had.
Nice. Very nice. I'm sure she's excited.
Yeah, yeah, she has all
Brian,
his old cassette tapes and all his old CDs.
I know his
Crazy.
stuff. I have on my website, like I've embedded one of his old videos that was on YouTube on there because just so much knowledge. Like write it down was the thing that changed my life. Like I kid you not. I was organized, I was structured and everything, but writing it down changed everything for me. Like the moment I started to put it pen to paper, I was like, oh my God, this is what it is.
These books here, they're
Mhm.
notebooks. You get them at the dollar store here. They're just cheap notebooks, but they
Yep.
have a hardcover
Yep.
and they have different sayings on the front.
Very
This one's
nice.
but I put my name on it because
Ridiculously good ideas. I love that.
but I put the date on the top and I make notes when I'm talking to clients or team members, but ideas I have. And
Yeah,
I go through almost a, a book every month
that's awesome.
and I keep them all. And then at the end of the month, I'll go through it and just highlight stuff that I want to carry forward or work on.
Yeah. It's
Similar.
it's bringing your attention back to what it is that you really, really, really want, and like that's part of the immersion. When the, I kind of learned this through philosophy as well as not just like subconscious because like I was studying different religions just for the heck of
Mm.
it, and like different religions were just guiding with different slices of the pie as well. Like you kind of understood that like what you sow is what you're going to reap basically in the karmic Buddhist type of philosophies in life, and that path of being in alignment and being purpose driven and moving towards your ultimate goal. In the Bible it talks about in the beginning was the word and the word was God. Okay, that's speech. That's something that we have to articulate effectively. In the Quran it has the pen. The pen was the first creation of Allah. Like the pen is the thing that you pick up, you pick it up and you write it, and then when you write it you're writing it into existence. So when you start to like mold all of these different philosophies and these different religious ideas into something that I think that the idea was to learn everything and then create your own, because it didn't what one thing that I always observed was that like people would, I mean, just to go down like going down the religious rabbit hole is kind of interesting, but two people that are believers of the same religion never had the same beliefs. And I realized that they selected the beliefs that matched their lifestyle or whatever it was they wanted to accept. And this is part of our like our healing.
Selective
Yeah,
religion.
selective. I'll follow this part, but I won't follow that part. That part.
I have my theories on religion as well.
Here's the kicker about it though. When you take science and you take religion and you study just the fundamental stuff that they're teaching, like I mean like just fundamental, have goals, be in alignment with your goals, work your way towards your goals. You're created to be a creator, understand your
Do
creative
good.
power, then that's it. That's all
Deliver
they
no
do.
evil. Be good person.
Exactly. Exactly.
My
hear no
my
evil, speak no evil, like see no evil, like turn away from the bad stuff and like and really see people for their true essence. This is just their avatar. Bringing it back to the Matrix, like this is just my avatar. Like I'm a soul that has a mind that's working my way into physical reality through this avatar.
Deepak Chopra talks about that. My wife's got all his recordings as well. But my theory behind religion, I have two, and not being very religious, I think that, the first copy of the Bible, like the oldest copy in existence, you have the Holy Bible, you have the Quran, you have different religions that have these
Mhm.
old, they're actual physical copies. So somebody wrote them. So, once we created paper and pen,
Right,
before that we were writing on walls. But I believe that, for example, the Bible, if you have one copy and it was one part of the world, if we look to our society now, 100 years from now, they'll look back and say, wow, what a crazy religion the US was. So
right,
the US has their constitution,
right,
right? And if you read that 100 years from now, people will say, well, that was a crazy religion. I think
right.
that the Bibles from different religions were actually written in that time to help guide people to do the right things.
Absolutely, because the right thing is very simple. Like the
Except if you
right thing
part,
is not
except
that complicated. It's too
yeah,
simple for us. We complicate it, but it's too simple for us to understand. Like, show compassion to everybody, have unconditional love, have forgiveness, don't pass judgment, seek truth, seek purity, and
and if you
connection
if
and
you
acceptance.
park in a no parking zone downtown Vancouver, you get $120 fine. Right.
Right,
So that's the laws of today. Back then they didn't have cars, but they had things, don't steal from thy neighbor. But
right,
what was the
exactly.
repercussions? I didn't see any repercussions in the Bible. The repercussion is, okay, you're going to go to hell. But what was that? What would define that back then? The other theory I have about religion is when we pass away, there is an afterlife. I believe that.
Yeah,
But I believe that your thought, and after listening to Deepak Chopra, your thought, like when you die, your spirit, and it's just your mind, and you
yeah,
wake up from time to time, and you have to live in perpetuity with all the stuff you did in your life, and your
exactly.
mind is floating around somewhere, so you're in existence. But my great grandfather's mind can't talk to me. It might do some things, like move a pot at home to scare the crap out of me in the middle of the night. But that's my thought on death, is when you die, you pass away, and your mind is just floating. But I
Yeah.
saw a great video the other day. It was in the UK somewhere, and it was a funeral, and they're burying this gentleman, and he
Uh-huh.
had a recording that he wanted to play after he died. It was in his last wishes.
Uh-huh.
So they play the recording, and here's the recording. What am I doing in this box? Who put me in this box? And everybody, like, you can see the sore, and then they just start smiling, and everybody starts laughing. And I forget what he exactly said, but it was this whole like 10-minute recording of him talking as if he was still alive, talking from the coffin. He's like,
Yeah.
somebody open the door on this thing, it's hard to breathe in here. So you could see everybody, and somebody was recording it, and it brought smiles to everybody's faces. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah. The ancient Egyptians have this, like they said that your heart was going to be like on Judgment Day, your heart is going to be weighed against a feather, and
Wow.
how lighthearted you actually are about life, and that was going to determine your afterlife, and yeah, so there's
Somebody put thought into that when they wrote all these things way back when.
sure, of course, because you see, like our fundamentals are the same. Like it doesn't change. It's exactly the same. The problem is that we get ego driven. It's the ego that causes the problem. The
Mhm.
ego sees separation. The ego is the I am that I identify myself as. The ego is the I want and the I know it
Yeah,
all
I was
part
just
of
gonna say,
ourselves.
I
Yeah.
need,
Yeah. It's not even I need, it's I want. Like the I needs are more, are necessities, but it's the I want, I want, I want, I want. And then sometimes we convert the wants into a need, even though we don't really need it. But I need to have that, new Louis Vuitton bag or whatever it is.
Louis Vuitton. You're thinking too small, Leah. You're
Oh,
thinking too small.
clearly.
Yeah.
Hermes.
There you go. Yeah.
There's no way. I wouldn't even spend the money on a Louis Vuitton, I'll be honest with you. I went through that phase. I got them and then I wasn't happy and I realized that they don't bring happiness.
So right. You're so 100%. I saw lots of great posts on WhatsApp. A lot of people really happy with your interviews. I mean,
Yeah,
it's great. I think we're all here to, with the group, just to help each other and
absolutely.
help
I
each other
love the
grow.
group. Yeah, I love the group. I think the group is a phenomenal group of people, and I love that we have access to each other because I think it's hard to connect sometimes in your own little bubble. Like I'm sure
We're all in the
in your
right mind.
financial bubble, you said like your environment's very small. Like you recognize that, not many people might think the way that you do or look at finances the way that you do. And like it's
Everyone has a different perspective. Some people believe in real estate, some people believe in life insurance, some people, it's we don't I don't I mean, that's our philosophy here is when somebody comes in for that interview, we won't judge what they're trying to do. It's just whatever they're trying to do, we'll help work with them. If somebody believes in real estate, you're not going to change their mind.
right,
So
right.
help them structure their real estate business or their investment properties, the right corporate structures, and just help them succeed in what they want to do.
Sure, sure.
I think
Mauro
that's
was
what's really
sharing
helped
with
us.
me a strategy
Who
to
was?
Mauro
Okay,
company.
yeah, yeah.
He was telling me about how in Canada you can like hold things in your policy, and he was kind of breaking some of that down for me because I don't have any kids, so I never thought about life insurance before. I was like, it's just me. So if I die, it'll go
Yeah,
to
there's,
charity or something.
there's other things you can do inside a corporation. We work with a lot of, like, we don't advise people in the US, but we're in contact with a lot of advisors, and a lot of the strategies are the same. I got
Yeah.
to meet Morrow here. He's in Calgary, which is a 1 hour flight, but a 10-hour drive from here.
Okay.
He was in Vancouver. His head office is here, the
Ah, okay.
insurance company that he works under. So
Yeah.
yeah, he has his own business, but so he said, "Oh, I'm going to be in Vancouver on the group." And I said, "Why don't we have dinner?" He's like, "Where are you, in Calgary?" I said, "No, in Vancouver." So we actually went out twice now. He's been here twice, and he's looking at taking our franchise throughout the province of Alberta.
Oh, very nice.
So the connections you make are, whether it's somebody
Priceless.
referring
I mean,
somebody
like,
or
yeah, I found myself working with Roberto from Spain quite a bit. And I mean, like, I would not have connected with him, but he does this emotional intelligence and the NLP stuff. And it goes so like hand in glove with what I teach. So,
yeah,
it really worked out. And that was what his whole section was, how to be a nuclear leader in the book. And that's what, and by that I don't mean China or the US.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean like in your personal life. That's funny. We should make a
Nuclear being powerful.
yes. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I have the recording here
Okay.
for mine. I'll send you a copy or a link. It's too big to send by email, but I'll put it on Dropbox. I'll share the
Or
entire
just when
video.
you put it out, just send it to me. It's fine. I'm gonna use what I
But
have.
you'll have the raw video as well.
Okay, great.
Because you may find something in after we cut there that you may want to use or use it on a reel or
Sure. Sure, sure, sure. Definitely send it. Yes. Will
okay,
do.
awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. Have
Thank
a
you also.
great rest of your evening.
Okay,
Bye bye.
see you.